Hello AOS fans, Robin here. I'm back again and I'm here to show you another game that we've been playing in our house. This is a dungeon crawler and it's called Wakening Lair, and this is from Rather Dashing Games, and it's $35 US. I'm not sure how easy it is to get in the UK yet. It's just come out in the US, so it's $35 US dollars, and it's a really fun dungeon clearing game. This won't tax you too much, but it will entertain you, and it's really fun. As I said, I love the presentation. The presentation, as you can see, this lovely box, which looks like a book, and it even opens out like a book. Now, I can't really open it out properly because all the bits are fall out. But there you go, try and hold that in. So it opens up like a book, and in there you have all the pieces. I'll take a picture of that for you there. And so that's the pieces, and the game is very, very simple. You put out 12, you have dungeon cards, you put out 12 dungeon cards, which are face down so you can't see them, and then you start at one end, and at the top end is a evil bad guy. You can't see which one it is. You randomly choose these evil bad guys. They have these lovely textured cards for the evil bad guys, and so you can't see who you're going to fight, and then at some point in the game he will be revealed as you move your way towards the end. And basically you're in the dungeon trying to fight it, and each time you do, monsters appear. So you have 12 cards out in a long line. It's driven by a d6, and each time you want to move, you roll 2d6, and then you reveal a card of a room that hasn't been revealed, and then you put monsters out. And so very quickly you end up with this dungeon you have to get through to get to the bad guy at the end. And there's a stack of dungeon cards, and somewhere towards the bottom there's a mechanism for stacking your dungeon cards. It's random, but towards the bottom will be the monster awakens card, and once that happens the monster at the end awakens and all hell breaks loose. And the game is very, very simple. You can choose your characters that you want to play, and there are 3 types. There's wizardy types, shootery types, and fightery types, and they're represented by these counters on the board. So that's the green ones are the shootery types, and the red ones are the fightery types, and the blue ones are the wizardy types. And so they're the counters that you use to move up the board as you go, and each time you kill a monster you get a treasure. So your characters get better as their treasure gets better, although you don't always find treasure. Sometimes you can find traps, and it's really fun. I say it's not a serious game, it's a good working together game. It suffers a little bit that you can probably sit and work out the best way to win fairly easily, I think, from the games we've played. But it does depend a little bit on what order your items come out. If the right item doesn't come out, then the game can be really tough, which is okay, just makes it a bit more challenging. And the game works by using d6. So you get 3d6 in the box, and each monster, I'll show you a monster card, each monster has number of d6, but either 2 or 3 of these, and you have to kill this monster. You have to get a 5 on a d6, a 4 on a d6, and another 4 or more on d6s. So they're all or more on those cards. So you need 3. You need to roll 3 separate d6 for that, and you put little red blocks on them when you give them damage. And so you roll, and at the beginning you only roll 1d6 to attack. As you get items, you can build up to 2d6 and 3d6, which makes it easier. And then there are other affinities, so the monster has a weakness. So each character has like an affinity. So you might have a poison affinity and a frost affinity, and a monster have a weakness. So if you have if it has a frost weakness, then you get a bonus against that. And then there's the room has an affinity too, and so if you have an affinity in common with the room, you get a different bonus. So it's kind of building up which room do I want to fight in, and which weapons do I want to use. So weapons have an affinity too, so they increase your bonuses, and the monster has a weakness. So again, you're all trying to work out what your affinities are to best to deliver the most damage. And then each character has a couple of special actions they can do too. As well as these red blocks for damage, you also get these white blocks, which are quite useful because they can modify dice rolls. There's a healer character, and he can either heal you, and if you're already healed, you get a white dice, and you can modify any dice roll by plus and minus 1 with those. So again, you can weight things in your favour to make things a little bit easier for you. And the game is really fun. It's fully cooperative, and it's nice to work together to do something. So the games we've played, we haven't found it massively difficult, but we have found it challenging, which is quite satisfying really, because in some ways you want to win, you want to have to think about it and how to win, and then I mean, at the end of the day, is really nice. That kind of is it in a nutshell. A couple of other things. The heroes have damage, and this is an interesting way of resolving it. So at the beginning, when the monsters fight you, so they roll the dice to the number of dice they have. So that monster I showed you that had 3 dice, that would roll 3d6 if you were fighting that. So if it got a 3, a 4, and a 4, you would take 3 damage. With this one, it actually gets more difficult to kill as it goes on. So these are the damage you take. So once all of these are filled with red blocks, then you die. So your first attack, they need a 3. This is the necromancer. So this is slightly the wrong way around. The other, so he needs a 3 in the first attack, and it gets progressively more difficult to do damage. So this wizard, however, needs a 5 to do damage, and it gets progressively easier to kill them as they get weaker. And most of the monsters are like that. Creatures, most of the characters are like that, but so each time, so you basically have 5 hits, and it gets easier to hit you, or different to hit you each time, which is quite an interesting mechanic. And you can modify your dice rolls with the white cubes to mean that something would have hit you misses. When you find objects, you find 2 objects at once, but you can only use 1, which I quite like that as a mechanism. So you can choose whether you use a weapon or a magic item, and you put have your character card and you put the thing underneath it. So if you're going to use the magic item, you put it that way, and if you're going to use the weapon, you put it that way. And once you've chosen, that's it. You can't change. You can't do that one. Well, I won't do that one. So there's a kind of trade-off there. Do I want this weapon, or do I not want this weapon? No, would I rather have a magic item? And you can also put them in your backpack, as it were, and not use them. But then once you've used it, that's it. You can choose which way, but that's it. And you can give them around to your opponent, your fellow party members, of course, which is very handy because sometimes you pick the one that your opponent, your fellow character needs, so you can hand it to them as long as you're in the same room or go through the same room. So that is it, really. When you get towards the end of the game, the uber bad guys, they have lots and lots of dice you need to get. So this guy has they have different zones, and you have to fill each zone before you can go on to the next one. They're quite hard to kill, and all hell breaks loose. Really bad things happen once this guy comes out, and they basically march down the dungeon, and if they get out to the bottom, then you lose. If any of your characters die, then you lose as well. If you kill the bad guy at the end, then you're the winners, and that's basically the game. There are treasure cards which allow you to resurrect. You will definitely need those because the monsters pack quite a punch, especially the uber bad guys at the end, and the resurrect cards basically put you back to normal. So that's the game in a nutshell. I hope that was useful. It's a really fun game. I really enjoy Wakening Lair. Do check it out if you want a sort of not too serious collaborative game. Then I would recommend Wakening Lair for you. It's really nicely put together. I love the chunky uber bad guy cards, and the way the magic items and weapons mechanism works. I really like that too. I would, if I had any not sort of criticism, I think it needs a few more dice just to make it a bit easier. You've only got 3 dice to run around with, but of course you've probably got loads of dice at home anyway. So that is Wakening Lair, beautifully presented, fun game. Games take between 30 to 45 minutes, I would say, and the box says 14 plus. I don't think 14 plus is at all needed. I would probably about 8 or 9 plus would probably cope just fine with this game, especially if they were used to playing games with you. Then I would see they would have no issues playing this at all. So I hope you found that useful. That was Wakening Lair from Rather Dashing Games, and if you have any questions about it, do put them in the comments. Otherwise, do check it out. So until next time, and I hope there'll be another game for you. I will see you soon. Okay, bye.